My guest today is Philippe Grenier, and he's known as a director of Premier Trio's TV series broadcasted on Radio Canada, for which he won the Jameau Award for Best Directing and Best Youth Program in 2024. Now, his newest short film, Muscat, is written and directed by Philippe in a film about non-communication, resilience, taboos, and sexual awakening. Now, this deeply touching short film has qualified to be considered for the 97th Academy Awards. Now, Muscat recently won the first prize for Breaking Boundaries Award at the Rhode Island International Film Festival for films that celebrate the endurance of the human spirit and resilience in the face of injustice, while also taking home the award for Best Narrative Short at Provincetown International Film Festival. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome writer-director Philippe Grenier and his Oscar-qualified short film, Muscat, to the show. Welcome, Philippe.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me. Hi to you.
Well, I understand that this story was told to you by your grandmother. Why was this story important for her to tell you?
Well, it happened a bit by chance, actually. I think we were drinking wine and this story just came up. I don't remember exactly how, but I remember exactly how I reacted, like in the moment. I scribbled some notes in a notebook, and I knew right away that this story had great potential to be adapted into a film. So I drew some of my inspiration from it to write the screenplay of Muscat. And yeah, that's how it started.
Well, this is a very beautiful visual film, and I know Samir, the young boy in the film, works to help support his family, but he's dealing with feelings, well, for other boys or even men. So normally this would not be an issue in many parts of the world, but he lives in a culture where this is actually frowned upon and even persecuted for their sexuality. Is this more about culture in the community or more about religion? Because I know that in Arab communities, religion is a major part of the culture.
Well, I would say that first, it's a film about incommunicability and resilience. Man, that's a tough word. Uh, Actually, I wanted to tell the story of a young boy who has to lie in order to survive because the social climate in his village, kind of prevents him from being honest and transparent with those around him. So yeah, the truth is we see discrimination everywhere. And not only within the Arab community, um, but it's true. Yeah, of course there too. But even here in Canada, in many places and regions, we still face a lot of prejudice and discrimination, and that's one of the reasons I decided to tell the story. So yeah, for me, it's really about incommunicability and resilience more than about religion. For me, this film.
Well, yeah, and I know that there were certain elements within this film, and one of the things I noticed that Samir is a young boy full of dreams, and he was teaching himself English as he wanted to go beyond living in a fishing community and then move to a place where he could, well, I guess, become his authentic self, correct?
Well, that's something implied in the film. I leave it to the viewer to interpret it in any way they want or choose. Samir is also a curious boy who may dream of something other than making a living from fishing. But I think your theory is right, and it is what I imagined when I wrote the film, for him to eventually leave this place and yeah, be authentic elsewhere. So yeah, you're correct.
Well, yeah, and the story is so good, and even you actually show Samir's older brother who knew of his liking of the same sex, but he also strongly discouraged it because he knew of the persecution and even the shame it would bring, I think, more upon the family. So why was it important to show the older brother? I guess his name is it Nasim or Nasim's, and or to show his disapproval.
I think the brother, well, Nassim guessed Samir homosexuality long before the film began, and I believe that Nassim is above all very protective of his little brother, and I think his reaction and behavior are always driven by a sincere desire to defend and protect him. Uh, yeah, so I wanted to walk a fine line where the viewer could question Nassim's intention. And a good example of that for me is the movie poster. In the movie poster, we play on this duality with the brother. So we see Nassim, the older brother, arms embracing Samir. There's like something both gentle but also suffocating in his gesture. So yeah, I wanted to. I think he's like really protective of his brother, and he knows the danger from him to be like gay in the small village. So in this village in particular. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
both of the characters are completely different from one another. Samir is he's very kind, very polite. He follows his mother's instructions, and then his older brother is a little bit the opposite. He's more abrupt, um,
Hmm.
and comes across as, I guess, tougher. I guess is the way to explain it. But like, and you're right. He, even though he disapproves, he still acts as Samir's protector because
Hmm.
he knows what could happen. And in the film, sometimes I think, and probably the audience thinks that his older brother is being hard on him, but it's probably the older brother's way of showing his love for his brother and protecting him at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a tough love brother situation. Yeah, but it acts in his best interest, even if it's like uh, n- not the proper way to do it. I think that's the way he chose to do it, and it's just by a sincere desire to protect him. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like about this film is that it has minimum dialogue. So the audience follows the story through um facial expressions, camera movement. So it comes across as it is a very visual cinematic film. Now there's a scene in this film that I was trying to wonder about, and I'll let you explain it. But in the scene where Samir was taking a cold bath, he was
Hmm.
shivering from the cold water. Was he actually trying to calm down his sexual urges?
That's a good question. I think Samir is disturbed by this gesture. Like in a way, it's kind of confirm his homosexuality, which he had been suppressing for a long time. So we see him washing himself, and both disgusted by his action and by this discovery. And I see him like washing himself as he hoped to cancel or push away his attraction to men by washing himself like that. So that was kind of the idea behind the scene.
Well, that makes sense. That makes complete sense here because he's at that age where he's struggling with himself.
Hmm.
And I think you portray that very well in this
Thanks.
film. But I was so curious because you have this very short scene where um, Samir remained standing during the moment of prayer. Was that a moment of the battle between his sexuality and the religion collided? Um, and why was that quick scene important to the story?
For me, this moment evokes Samir, loneliness, and the great vertigo he feels in facing his discovery. There's something really very vulnerable about discovering your homosexuality. So I wanted to visually illustrate that feeling. So the prayer disposition and the group of men allowed me to visually isolate Samir and show that he feels alone in the world. And also he feels different from all the men and the boys in his community. So the scene display was like really beautiful in that way because I could like see him with other men. So it was not really about religion. So I didn't want like to make a religion statement with this scene, but really more to make him stand out, and so we see that he's different from everybody else.
That I can see that now. Yeah, I can completely understand that after you explaining that scene, uh, because there are multiple scenes in this film where he does struggle with himself,
Hmm.
and but in this film, from scene to scene, it moves flawlessly and seamlessly to tell this story. And I mean, for you, what has been the reactions from audiences who have seen this film?
Well, the reaction is really great for now. I mean, like we had great feedback from the public, and yeah, so far so good, I will say. And I'm really pleased with the crowd audience, and I received beautiful messages online. So I'm really pleased, and I'm just happy also that now we have like this beautiful platform of the film, and it's now on Mereto, like it's online, and because of the Oscar race and everything, the film is like people talk more about it now. So I'm just happy that it reached a wider audience and that it can touch people. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked by the reaction.
Well, are you surprised by all of the reactions, and now that your film is Oscar qualified, that so many people are talking about it? Or are you surprised where you're at with this film now?
Yeah, well, I still cannot really wrap my head around it. Like, I mean, it's kind of surreal, but I think, yeah, the best thing, as I said, is like it's creating more opportunity to showcase the film, and that's really what I just hope for, that this film and this piece of work that we made with all the team could just reach out to people. So yeah,
I
I'm really
love
happy.
that. I love that. I want to ask you about a particular scene in this film, and
Okay.
it has a lot of tension in this scene when the tourist Louise or Lewis and his wife or girlfriend were at the beach and she drowned.
Hmm.
He didn't know the native language, which, most tourists don't, but Samir knew enough English, but he failed to help him. But in that same scene, you have Samir's brother telling him not to go forward, which I don't think his brother was looking at Samir as stopping him to help. I think he was stopping him because the other boys in the scene were talking about Samir, that he liked
Hmm.
boys. So, in these types of communities, I guess, LGBTQ youth, they're treated as outcasts, correct?
Yeah, I think it's true that LGBTQ plus issues is still divide the public opinion in Morocco, and it's unfortunately the case in many places around the world. So not just only there, but yeah, of course, that's a big part of why Samir choose to not spoke at the end. And I think the final scene is like everything happens so quickly, and Samir froze under the gaze of like the others, and on one hand you have like these young boys his own age teased him around his homosexuality, and on the other hand you have like his mother question him about why does he understand English, and then you have the police question him too, and so you have all of that, and also his brother who's is also his father figure to tells him to keep quiet to avoid embarrassing them. So I find his silence at the end of the film really disturbing and even frustrating. Like I wrote it, but I hope for him to talk, but I couldn't believe it myself at the end. I don't think it would be logical for him to speak in that context and like in that place. So yeah,
You
that's
know what?
really-
Because I'm still thinking about that film, and I agree with you because you did the complete opposite of what the audience wanted to happen. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes filmmakers need to go with their gut do the complete opposite of what the audience would expect. Because I was sitting there the whole time thinking, "Come on, Samir, disobey
Yeah.
your brother. Go over there and help Lewis, and at least try to communicate to the police of what happened." And so his older brother holds him back. His mother in a way holds him back because, like you said, she's trying to figure out, why does he
Hmm.
know English. So he'd been
Yeah.
studying English in private, and it really broke my heart when his older brother broke the tape player.
Yeah, it's so sad. I know. Well, I had another ending actually written, with him talking to the police and just take a stand from himself, but like it wasn't logical. We did the rehearsal and everything. I was just like, it's so more strong and logical for him to not speak. Yeah, and I think the silence and censorship reflect the silence of millions of young boys and girls who are forced to hide their sexual identity for fear of reprisal. So I find it more accurate to do it that way than to do like a Hollywood kind of ending movie where he's like the hero and he's. But yeah, but the film final image, like during the ending credit, is Samir walking in the distance with Louis' shirt in his hands. He's like really small in the frame, but you can see him like walking away from the village. So I think the viewer can make their own interpretation of these last images. And for me, they represent a glimmer of hope. So maybe he's leaving this place, and so we don't know. And so even if he doesn't talk, like you have this small glimmer of hope with him walking in the distance
But
at
it
the end.
you also showed something else that happens in society in this whole sequence of the scenes at the end. You know, I was kind of wondering, did Samir succumb to peer pressure? And because of that age, part of it could be peer pressure. The other part was not to bring shame upon the family. And also, he didn't want to appear disobedient either to his older brother or even to his mother, because disobedience is another element that can bring shame. But I really love the way you played the ending. And again, just going against what the audience would normally expect. Like you said, why do the Hollywood ending and make him the hero? Do the complete opposite, because then it makes us remember the film that much more, because we're like left with, why didn't he just go over there? So we're talking about this film more because of the way you ended it, which I think was an absolute brilliant filmmaking move.
Thank you so much. Well, it was a controversial move because like many people wanted him to take action, and but I just had a feeling that it wasn't right for the story, and sometimes stories don't end well. So yeah,
Now,
that was my choice.
you said you wrote an alternative ending, but did you film an alternative ending?
We didn't shoot it because we didn't have too much time, and we wanted like to catch the sunset. And no, we didn't have the time to, because we only shoot this film in 5 days, so it was really fast paced, and uh, so no, we
Well,
didn't have
the
that luxury.
yeah, now that I understand. The cinematography of this film is really beautiful, and
Thank-
especially because in this film you have many different elements of or shades of light, because you even have elements to where you're filming, late into the evening. I know that Derek Brascombe was your cinematographer. Can you tell us more about the cinematography?
yeah, so of course I've been working with Derek for a long time, and he did uh, he did the cinematography for several of my early music videos. I directed a few music videos that he's been working on too. So it was very, very easy and instinctive to work with him on this film. So we worked on a naturalistic approach with very little artificial intervention. The idea was obviously to create beautiful images, but we wanted to be mobile For a film that was shot mainly on location, well, only on location actually, with a small crew, we needed to work with the sun. So yeah, we really like worked the schedule around the sun and also the tides of the ocean. So the single night scene is splits the film in two, so it marks a change of day, and it also highlights a massive decisive moment for the main character. So I wanted to isolate that sequence visually, so that's why it's the only night sequence in the film. And yeah, so that's
I
it.
I love that because I noticed that the night scene split the film in half, and I also loved the minimal use of artificial light, which just
Hmm.
really makes the cinematography that much better and so realistic. I mean, I was looking at the scene where Samir and his older brother, where where Samir was, he was watching, you know, Luis from a distance at the beach, and he was behind those two big rocks, and just looking at the sunlight and the coloring of that scene is just so magnificent.
Thank you. Well, we didn't have like much equipment, so we really worked with the sun. And sometimes the sun was really like a hard light, but we wanted to also capture that essence and that warm. And so we decided to assume that harsh light sometimes, and I think it's really beautiful too. So thanks for noticing it.
Well, how in the world did you end up filming in Morocco?
Well, we wanted to find a place where it's logical for the tourist character to be in a place where English and French is not like the first language. So, of course, there's people in Morocco who speaks French and English, but in some village, it's logical that people don't understand that language. So and we choose Morocco because we find great partners in there who wanted to tell the story with us. So that was kind of a challenge to set a place like with this type of script that to find a team who was willing to tell the story with us. And we find great partners in Morocco who just like love the script. So that's kind of how it started, and I'm really happy with the connection we made there. And we had a team like of people based in Essaouira, Casablanca, Marrakesh. So everybody came together to do this small film, and it was like really a magical experience. So
So,
really
how
fun
did you
time.
cast the film? Did you cast it in Morocco?
It's like half and half. So we had a casting director in Montreal who find the two young brothers and the two tourists. They from Montreal, all of them. But we also had the casting director in Morocco who find all the extras and locals, and the mother is from Morocco, and well, everybody else is from Morocco. And also, fun fact: the casting director himself is playing in the film, so he's like one of the guy on the beach at the end who's helping the tourist. So he also played in the film. So yes.
That's really cool. I mean, besides dealing with the sunlight and then being in a coastal town, were there any other difficulties that you ran into in filming it?
um, I mean, well, the bigger challenge was obviously like the lack of time we had. Um, I'm trying to figure out. Well, we had some surprises with the tide because like we were on a small beach and the tide just can't keep coming stronger. So we had to like the setup of the last scene is actually we moved it like approximately like 10 times. So I just hope that it doesn't look on the on screen that they're never at the same places, that we just moved a group of people like from places on the beach. But I think it does, like with the editing it doesn't show. But that was like one of the big challenge. And the language was also a factor because or in like the person who was supposed to be the traductor, the translator. He caught COVID like 3 days before the shoot, so we didn't have a translator. But like we were really lucky, and the guy who did the sound design of the film, who like did the sound on shoot, he was fluently speaking French, English, and Darija. So thanks God he was there to help us with the communication, because it was quite a challenge, to be honest. Yeah.
Wow. So you what? Well, tell me about the sound mixing as well as even the, I guess, the music score, because everything in
Mhm.
this film just worked perfectly.
Well, thanks. The music score is composed by Nicolas Maranda, who is a longtime collaborator. He did my first short film, and I just love to work with him. So I worked with him. I wanted something really minimal, but also really like haunting and stressful at the same time. So kind of a thriller music, but with these beautiful accent of light also. So we wanted something poetic yet dramatic and tortured. And one of the first inspiration was the Moby song that we had in the sequence in the middle of the film. So I was really pleased when Moby and his team allowed us to use this song in the movie, because it was like one of the first thing I had in mind while writing this scene. So we put it on set, we played the music for the actor, I edited the film with it, so I just had to have this song in the film. So I'm really happy that he said yes, and I think it's a really beautiful sequence too, because of the music.
And because of the music, you really bring up the point that there was two elements of tension at the end of the film. Samir wanted to help, but he was held back. So that created tension for the audience because the audience wanted him to go help Luis. But then we have tension because we all know that Luis is innocent. And because of the
Yeah.
language barrier, he couldn't explain to the police. The police weren't really listening. They're literally just looking at what happened and not
Hmm.
hearing or getting correct communication. So with the ending, it just wasn't Samir situation that was causing tension. It was also Luis's situation causing tension. So you gave us a double dose of it.
Yeah, it's quite a dramatic ending. I have like hope for Louis that they will do an autopsy on the corpse of her fiance, and they will discover that she just drowned and he didn't like murder her. But that part of the film was really inspired by the family tale that my grandmother told me, because that's what actually happened in the real life. So the husband went into jail for like a week the time they did the autopsy on the the girls. Yeah, so that was the point of
Well, it was a
the
point of
yeah.
tension because, yeah, because I when was watching it and then got to the ending, I was thinking, did they eventually find out that he was innocent? Because
Mhm.
nothing is more scarier than being a tourist in a foreign country and then ended up in jail.
Yeah, I think it's pretty scary. Yeah, so this is really a nightmare, and that's I decided also to not show like the aftermath of that scene, so because I just didn't think it would fit like in the short film, and because the main character is Sammy, I really wanted to focus on him. But yeah, in a feature, let's say like in the world there's a feature film of that story, we will probably maybe see what's happening with Louis after, and he's not responsible for the death of his girlfriend, of course, but yeah, I didn't want to bring that into the short film, um,
No,
for
you're
those
right.
reasons.
No, I would have left it exactly like you did it because it creates the tension to the very end. And but I also like the fact that with the ending of this film, it doesn't leave the audience hanging. It leaves them wondering, but that's a good sign because they're paying attention to the film and they're still thinking about it after it's over.
Yeah, that's something I like when I see a film, to think about it after, and to like reflect on it, and like yeah, so that's something I wanted to create with this ending, and I think people can interpret it like what they want after, and
So
decide it for
what?
themselves what the ending. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the questions you get at film festivals after people see the film?
Well, people are often curious to know like about the casting, and pretty much the question you've asked me. So yeah, so they're curious about how was it like shooting this film? Was it hard or easy, and that kind of stuff, and why we choose Morocco, and yeah, so pretty similar to the question you've asked me. So
Well, how does it feel to be Oscar qualified?
yeah, it's really amazing, but I don't want to put my hope too high, because like there's a lot of film that are Oscar qualified this year, and they're all really amazing. I watched some of them, and I think there's really great stories out there. So I'm really really happy and excited, of course, but I don't want to yeah, to just be too excited and be disappointed later on. So I'm just really grateful, like I said, to so people talk more about it, see the film, and that's just amazing in itself. So
Yeah, I love that. Now, you said that this film is available now on Omeletto. How long will it be
yeah,
there?
yeah, it's gonna be there until the closing of the votes from the cat. So until like December 17,
Yeah.
it's gonna yeah. So like for a month approximately, it's gonna be there.
Oh, fantastic! Because I know some people their film's not available to the public, and some are, and I know that they're
Yeah,
all in the Academy's portal. So for all the Academy members to watch, and
it's there.
so I'm kind of like you. You know, you don't want to get caught all up into the Oscar hype because this year is probably the toughest year I've seen with all of the films that are out there. So, I mean, voting starts December the 9th. The short list is announced on the 17th. And I think that we're gonna see some surprises on that list.
Well, yeah, so we'll see, but it's really exciting. So I cannot wait to see. Yeah.
Well, you absolutely deserve to be Oscar qualified, Felipe. And
Come on.
yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, Muscat. This was inspired by a story told by Felipe's grandmother, with the ending of the film mirroring the heartbreaking travel experience of her distant cousin. Now, Felipe found it necessary to tell the story through the fictional character of Samir, a young homosexual boy coming to terms with his sexuality in a country where gay individuals are still harshly persecuted. Now, Philippe Grenier, as a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, recognizes his privilege living in a country where he is free to love whoever he wants and feels it in his own goal to bring more decisive stories such as Muscat to the screen and to defend the rights of the community. Now, the cinematography of Muscat is very cinematic, and the colorization from scene to scene moves with grace and adds to the telling of the story of Samir, again, who struggles with his sexuality in a community that frowns upon it. Now, many people around the world can truly relate to Samir's struggles of identity and seeks the freedom to live beyond their current location. And Felipe, again, I want to thank you for sharing your Oscar qualified short film and the story behind it of Muscat with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, and go on the Instagram page if you want to follow us, Muscat, that short film. So thank you so much for having me. And yes,
You're very welcome, Felipe. And again, ladies and gentlemen, just like you said, Instagram Muscat. Is it Muscat short film?
Muscat dot short film.
Okay, Muscat short film on Instagram, and also Muscat is available to watch right now on Omeletto on YouTube, the place where everybody likes to watch multiple short films. So it's definitely a film you don't want to miss. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching. And as for me, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.